You've likely heard all the buzz about intermittent fasting, like it's some kind of miracle weight loss method. It helps with aging and longevity. Does it actually do any of those things? And how does it actually work? I experimented on myself and did intermittent fasting for 30 days. And in this video, I'm sharing my results and the number one thing I got from intermittent fasting that you're probably not expecting. Before I get too far into it, thanks for watching. And if you like this video, give it a like and go ahead and subscribe. Hit the bell to be notified for every time I release a new video. And if you're new here, I'm Coach Mack, former strength and conditioning coach turned health coach for women, where I help them feel like themselves again via fitness, one small step at a time in my health coaching membership called Fit by Bit, where you guessed it, we are getting fit by bit. When I was a strength coach, the most common advice I heard for coaches was to never ask your athletes to do something that you yourself can't do at least one rep of. So I have taken that advice and brought it into my health coaching practice as well, where I will not ask a client of mine to do anything, whether it's a workout program or a diet or anything for that matter, that I myself am not willing to do. So after receiving several questions about intermittent fasting from clients, I dove into the research and decided, why not commit and just try it out on myself? So here we are after my 30-day experiment. In the comments, let me know if you've tried intermittent fasting, and if so, how did you like it? You may hear intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating used interchangeably, and while technically they are different styles of eating, I am probably going to refer to them as the same thing because their differences are beyond the scope of this specific video. That being said, so you have some context about what I actually did for my intermittent fasting, here it is. It's really, really complex, so listen closely. I tried to only eat between the hours of 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. I still had my morning coffee, usually sometime between 7 and 8 a.m., which did include creamer and a collagen supplement. But other than that, I only ate between the hours of 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. Literally that simple. That was my version of intermittent fasting. I know, it's mind-blowing, right? So clearly, by my joking nature, you can tell there are tons of ways to make an intermittent fasting experiment, and intermittent fasting rules for that matter, as complex as you want them to be. You can alter your feeding windows, which is just the time that you let yourself eat. You can also alter what you allow during fasted times. Some people it's just water, other people it's minimal things like low calories. There are so many rules and it gets really complex really quickly. Admittedly, I wasn't in it for the scientific process. I did not want to meticulously track every single thing and calorie and minute that I ate it. That just wasn't my jam. So while there are plenty of people out there who will watch this and tell me, I'm sure, and tell you that this is not truly intermittent fasting because it doesn't follow certain protocols, that's fine. I wasn't in it for the protocols. I was in it to try to mimic real life and what I could actually do. Instead, I wanted to do it in a way that was realistic, also sustainable. I didn't want to feel deprived or like I was starving like most people do in fad diets. I wasn't in it for that. And number three, I wanted to do it in a way that my clients were most likely to do it, that is, in real life. So I didn't want to have all these rules and regulations and protocols weighing me down. I just wanted to experiment. And for most of the days, I would say probably 90%, I stuck to the schedule. My coffee and then 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. feeding window. There were a few days in there that I went AWOL, like I'm a human. So yeah, I went off course. Most of the days I was in that 12 to 8 window. Now you know how I did my intermittent fasting and also how much I stuck to it most of the time. Now let's get into the benefits of intermittent fasting. Some of the more common benefits of intermittent fasting include things like insulin regulation. The fact being that the more time you go in between eating, the more time your insulin has to come into a baseline and you maintain your sensitivity to insulin, which is a good thing. And that then has a whole host of downstream beneficial effects in our entire bodies. The next benefit is on aging and longevity. So our body has some time to do metabolic cleanup when it isn't digesting all of this food all the time. If you think about it, if you're eating 3 meals a day and snacking in between, you are always digesting, so your body is always having to process those things. That break in our feeding window, as they like to say in the intermittent fasting lingo, also is said to give your guts a break. So all of the food in there having to process and work and all of that takes a toll on our digestive tract. So if you give it a chance to rest every once in a while, it also does its own metabolic processes and clean up on itself. So that's another proposed benefit of intermittent fasting. And lastly, this is less on the scientific side of things and more just on the real life side of things, is that sometimes people find it easier to not eat than they do to eat less. I am actually one of those people that I find it easier to skip breakfast than I do to eat a small breakfast, small lunch, small dinner. Like, I would rather skip breakfast altogether and just have a bigger lunch and a bigger dinner, and it still helps you maintain a set amount of caloric intake because it's only spread over 2 meals instead of, say, 3. If you are interested in researching any of these benefits or intermittent fasting as a whole any further, I highly encourage you to do so. It is really interesting when you get to see how all these systems start working together and are intertwined. And all of these proposed benefits of intermittent fasting are fantastic if they're true. But I'll be honest, I didn't notice or feel a single one. And that's likely going to continue being true even as I continue doing it. And yes, you heard correctly, I am going to keep doing my own version, my unscientific version of intermittent fasting, and here's why. The number one most noticeable and most effective thing that I got from intermittent fasting, bar none, was that I stopped eating all of the shit I normally eat after 8 p.m. That is hands down the best thing it did for me. I mean, think about it. Anytime after dinner that you are thinking about a snack or something to eat, does a big ass salad pop into mind like, give me some lettuce? No. If you're like me, you're thinking about how good some nice buttery, salty popcorn sounds, or maybe the leftover cheesecake from the other day, or what about that bag of Reese's that you know is still hidden in the back of the cupboard, and you start thinking like, that sounds really good right now. So by having my own self-imposed no eating after 8 p.m. rule, all of my usual after 8 p.m. foods were a no-go. It also meant that I planned out my meals better, as in I would make sure to eat enough because I knew if it was going to be after 8 p.m., I couldn't eat anymore. Again, self-imposed is a really important part of this, but it made me more conscious and more aware of eating throughout the day and having a better plan, so that then after dinner, I wasn't tempted by the Reese's and the cheesecake and the popcorn. I could still have that stuff during the day, but it usually wasn't hitting me over the head with a craving saying, go get that hidden bag of Reese's. Because I set and then stuck to that self-imposed no eating after 8 p.m. rule, I cut out a significant portion of the junk that I was eating. So I am sticking to my 8 p.m. rule. Not for life, not forever, and maybe not even in this way. It's one tool in the toolbox that I have, and so far, I like it. It may or may not be for you. Again, it's just another tool, but it's only something that you can decide if it's something that's right for you. In fact, if you're looking to start your health journey with something even simpler than a whole month of intermittent fasting, I have my Fit in 5 5-day challenge that will get you moving in just 5 minutes per day. I'm gonna link it below in the description box if you're up for the challenge. If all of this intermittent fasting talk has you curious or wanting to try it for yourself, just comment below and we'll chat.